Good morning, Baba Wekesa.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, so for people who don't know, you will be here on the 17th in Cincinnati, and it's going to be a 2 day series, correct?
That's right. That's right. I'm excited about it.
Okay, now Saturday morning is going to be a focus on African centered education.
Indeed.
And you have an institute, the IA Educational Institute, and African centered curriculum. So for people who don't know, what does AYA mean? It's AYA. What does that word mean?
Thank you. AYA is an Adinkra symbol and a Khan word, and it stands for independence. It stands for defiance in the face of difficulty, resourcefulness. Um, those are the characters of this Adinkra symbol. Adinkra is from the Akan in Ghana. And it's an old, ancient African symbol. And we took that as the name for our school for two reasons. We want our students to become independent, resourceful, defiant in the face of difficulty, able to overcome whatever is necessary. And we also knew that our educational institute would have to have those characteristics. And therefore, we are AYA Educational Institute.
Okay. So what inspired you to create the school? It's almost like an alternative to public school, correct?
Yes, not only alternative to public school, it's an alternative to Eurocentric education, no matter how much you pay for it. Okay, um, and that's really important because people think, well, it's just public school is bad, but if I send them to a white private school, then they're going to really get a good education.
Yeah.
And not, they'll get more. They'll get better indoctrinated in white supremacy, and it'll be subtler sometimes. And it will fool us to believe that we have a good education. And to answer your question, and also to expound on what I mean by good education, the purpose of education is to serve the people who create it. Any community wants their children to be educated, and their people to be educated. Educated so that you can have the skills and the knowledge, the values, the culture, the proclivity, that is the interest, the desire to serve that community, to lift that community. And so I ask you, whether it's public school or white private school, um, are our children, are our people being educated so that upon graduation, even graduation with honors, do we want to render distinguished service to our community? Is that something we run to do, or is something we run away from? Do we have the skills to be able to handle the problems that our community faces? So if our community faces police brutality as a major problem, does my education prepare me for that? All right. Does my education prepare me to understand my culture and to know how to use it to lift my community and solve my problems? It doesn't matter which area. For example, health. Health is a tremendous problem in our community. Does our education, starting with elementary school, okay, I don't mean college, although the subjects I'm talking about we associate with college, but you start to prepare a student, particularly at the level of what they're interested in, what they have proclivity, what their values are. You begin that process even in elementary school, and continue it in junior high school or middle school and then in high school. And the education we receive alienates us from our community and prepares us to serve aliens. Now, I have to bring in, because that came directly from my mentor, friend, brother. I never met him personally, but it seems like I did. His name is Dr. Amos N. Wilson. And he said it simply: we're alienated to serve aliens. And so our education alienates us from our culture, our way, our mission, and an African-centered education, whether that's through a homeschool program, whether it's through a supplemental weekend or after school program, whether it's through a full-time program, and AYA offers all of these, has to heal alienation so that our students not only want to, but they're prepared to serve our community.
Hmm. Well, would you say that schools kind of force children to be buyers versus producers or
Mm,
workers or workers?
you got it. I think you got it. Consumers and employees. Okay, not independent thinkers, not entrepreneurs, and certainly not entrepreneurs with Black people with a collective spirit and a spirit of developing business together. Okay. And also, if it talks about entrepreneurship at all, it's exploitive entrepreneurship. Okay, it's exploitive capitalism. Okay, and if they do it at all, but mostly our children, whether they're in public school or whether they're in a white or a European centered, even if it's being taught by Black people, a European centered um, private school, directs our children to be consumers and consumers and consumers and consumers. And as you say, workers or employees, workers or employees. The idea of us creating wealth, the idea of us creating jobs, becoming the number one employer. What would happen, do you think, if um, in elementary school and middle school, students were given the idea that we need to become the number one employers of our people? That is, white people are the number one employers of white people. Asians are the number one employers of Asians. Okay, uh, and on and on and on. But who are the number one employers of African people? You see, if that idea was planted there, then wonder what would happen in terms of the number of us who would go into business and know how to create business and to be successful in business with us. And this is important because uh, we are socialized negatively to not believe that we will support each other and to not do that. That is not our natural state. It's just what we're socialized to do. And if I'm going to go into business, that's an obstacle that I have been trained, educated to overcome.
Okay, so you're giving the children the tools that they need to be producers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number one, they need to know our history of Black economic prowess, as I like to call it, our economic power. We have not been consumers, we've been producers. Um, uh, Many of our children and adults don't know how we were producers on the continent of Africa before European colonization, invasion and colonization. We don't, we may know about we were kings and queens, we've heard that. We don't know the kind of skill we had. We don't know how we housed ourselves, how we fed ourselves, how we clothed ourselves, how we defended ourselves. We don't know the level of skill that we brought. We don't know how we continued that skill under duress, under the weight of captivity, and how after captivity we exploded with our businesses and our skill set like nobody else ever in this country. We don't know that. What happens when our children don't know that? Then if you believe you were nothing, then anything above nothing is okay. Okay. And so it's critical that they know that, but not just for inspiration. And this is, I really want people to get it because many people think of history for just inspiration. And inspiration is important. It also gives you strategies. You also learn lessons. Okay. And think of our own personal history. When I go through things, then and it becomes my past. I also take my lessons from that, strategies. This worked, this different didn't work. I mean, need to adjust this, those kinds of things. So imagine they're not only being inspired to duplicate our business economic prowess that we had after captivity ended here, but also if we learn the lessons, what did we do? How did we do it? How did we build it?
I'm sorry. You said that, I just don't want to forget what I'm thinking about. You said that people aren't aware of, how they fed themselves, how they clothed themselves, how they defended themselves. What about how we healed ourselves, like the grieving process?
Oh yes, oh, tremendously. I didn't say them all, and I'm glad you mentioned it. So let me. And basically, I'm pulling those from Baba John Henry Clark. Okay, and that is, it's important when we're studying that we know and look for and learn how African people, how we educated ourselves, how we fed ourselves, how we clothed ourselves, how we defended ourselves, how we healed ourselves, how we governed ourselves. Okay. And how we sheltered ourselves. When you begin to look at those seven, we begin to get a picture of what a whole African man is like, what a whole African woman is like, what a whole African person and African community is like. And this is important because often we don't have the vision of what a whole village, what a whole community, what a whole black man, black woman, black family is like. And therefore, we don't have what we need to get back to. And so as we ask those questions, so how did we heal ourselves? How did we feed ourselves? And what were the strategies? And notice, I'm not saying that we did. I'm saying how we did. Our community is too long on ought tos and not long enough on how tos. Okay, but that's where the critical thinking is. That's where the lessons are learned. That's where we learn strategy.
All right. So I have so many questions I want to ask you. Okay, but anyway,
I'll be short on my answers. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So when we're talking about giving the kids the tools to be producers, so an adult that's a producer right now, we could label them as a Black business owner. If we want to give them some tools to aid in the economic development of the entire community, I guess that would come in the form of support. But, everyone says that, but what does that support look like? What kind of behavioral practices can we initiate to express that support? What does it look and feel and sound like, that support?
That is our supporting Black youth in business?
Black businesses are producers.
Oh, Black businesses. Oh, okay. What number? I'm sorry.
I said, we're creating these producers, but the producers that we have now, these adults that are, actively engaging in this, economic development, how can we support them?
Well, of course, the number one way to support Black business is for us to shop with each other, for us to cooperate with each other in the building, in the procurement of whatever we need. And, one of the things that our students study is that the dollar turned over back during our economic prowess. And I'm talking about from 1865 to like 1940. The dollar turned over in our communities 36 to 100 times. 36 to 100 times. Okay. And we need to, that's how we sustained ourselves. Okay. That's how we could go out of the community, work, and then have that dollar turn over so many times, and it served our community. Our economic nationalism in the form of our both collaborating to start businesses where we put our monies together, and then our supporting those businesses. Now, let me tell you what's necessary for support. We have to build trust, okay? And we have to build trust where distrust is induced, okay? This system of oppression induces distrust. It has me distrust myself. It has me distrust other Black people. And that is what we must address so that we begin to trust each other and we shop with each other. Okay, we buy each other's products. We feel great when we're shopping with a Black business or a Black business person, a sister, or brother. And we feel cheated when we are forced to have to spend our money outside of our community. That's what we need to do. Of course, that's flipping the script.
True. Okay, so in order to do that, I think it has to be, I guess, a certain level of healing. You have to heal yourself to be able to trust other people, and you have to have healed themselves to, I guess, work with you, I guess, build that bridge of understanding. So isn't your seminar about that? The second day, you're going to be talking about ways that we can heal ourselves, correct?
Indeed. So that Saturday morning from 10 to 12, we're going to focus on independent Black education for our youth, at the same time also for parents. And then from 1 to 5, after we take an hour for lunch, and that educational session is absolutely free. Then we're going to go into the second session, which is a taste of WHB, a taste of Warriors, Healers, and Builders. And we particularly talk about and provide a tool set that we call the Blacknificent Seven, okay? And that is 3 skills and 4 steps that's necessary to do the kind of healing that you mentioned, so that we begin to trust ourselves and to trust each other. It's not an ought to session. It's not, well, if you just read Amos Wilson, if you just read this book, you know, then everything will be all right. Well, of course, please read the book. It's a great book and we use it, but it's not. It's trust won't be built because I have the knowledge of what we could do. Okay. And people get this mixed up. Okay. Right. Trust is eroded based on oppression. Okay. And so if oppression teaches me to distrust myself and you, I have to find out where that is planted in me, how it came down my family line, how it may have come through the television program that I just watched yesterday. And I must purge that. Okay. And as I purge that and then replace that with the African spirit, and I do so in ways that take care of me. Okay. So and that's why it's a skill set, and we call it Warriors, Healers, and Builders. And that, you know, it's also sometimes called Healing Oppression's Wounds, because that is why we distrust ourselves and the things that the oppressor has put in our communication. And this is also critical. We often say the chains are not on our necks, they're not on our limbs. Okay, they're here. Well, part of what we dig into is how to break them, because what the oppressor has done, all right, has corrupted our communication, so that when I'm communicating with you, sister, and let's say we're in business together, and let's say I have some old wounds that I've not healed that may have started in my family. Let's say there's some light-skinned, dark-skinned wounds, or there's some, you live on that side of the track, I live on this side of the track wounds. Or you have alphabets behind your name and I don't have alphabets behind my name. Let's have you're a sister and I'm a brother, and we have wounds around that. And now we're going to come and do business together because we're excited about it, and you have skills and I have skills, and let's start this business. And then I do something. It may have been intentional, may unintentional. And it hits one of those old brother-sister wounds. Well, how are we going to hold our business together when in fact, you know, that level of woundedness has been excited, okay? And we don't have a process together of addressing that. What are we going to do when it comes up in me? Well, some of that light skin, dark skin stuff come up. And often this stuff comes up and we're not even aware consciously that it comes up. We can become aware, but we just begin to fade away and fade away and fade away, become disinterested, apathetic, or talking about each other. And all of those, as the closer we get to success, the more those splits and those fissures begin to do their work, because they're implants based on oppression. And we can heal those. We've been doing it for over 20 years. And we've been doing it successfully. We formed a home buying collective here in the Atlanta metro area where I live. And this is during the heart of this mortgage fraud, this economic downturn, 2010. And we had families to come together, to put monies together in an isusu. And every month, a family would get the pot. We'd stack it for 3 months, and then that family would go and buy a home free and clear. In order to participate in this, however, people had to go to this weekend retreat. Now, what we're going to be getting on Saturday is a taste. What they had to go through was 3 days. That's in order to qualify. And then every month we met, and then every 3 months we had a 1 day again. And that is to begin to identify, so how did I catch not to trust Black people? Did I catch it from my mother, my grandmother, my father, or did I catch to trust Black people in this area? We asked questions that Amos asked, and that is, he asked me a question once that really knocked me on my butt. He said, how many of you owe a Black person a large sum of money? And I realized that I didn't owe a Black person, which means I hadn't trusted, I hadn't gotten that much into business. All the people that I owed a large sum of money were white people. We began to ask questions. What did you catch? Even though you may have read this and you have a philosophy now of Black business development, Black business support, what did you grow up seeing? Okay. And then how do you handle whenever there's dissatisfaction with a business? How do we handle it with each other so as to lift our businesses? And you know, so those are the kinds of things that we'll get into on Saturday, because we cannot get up out of this situation if we continue to fund our oppression. We got to fund our liberation. And on that note, those people who think that all we need to do is be in business and not also have the consciousness such that that business funds our liberation, that's a mistake as well.
Mm-hmm. So support businesses that support the community.
Absolutely. Support businesses and heal ourselves so that we can do that like we used to. You know, if a dollar turned over 36 to 100 times, you know, we had something going on.
Yeah, true. So back to the homeschooling. Some parents, they may feel like they don't want to enroll their kids because they may miss out on, you know, socializing with their peer group. What would you tell that parent is actually, you know, some of the social benefits of your homeschooling program?
Wonderful. First, it's a mistake to have school be the major socializing agent. That is, a school that we don't control. Okay, an institution that we don't control becomes the major socializing agent. Back in the day, when your mother wanted you to get piano lessons, or father or whatever, she chose a person who would teach you piano or the music, and not just on their musical skill, but also because of who they were. Well, that goes out the door, because I send my child to school, and whomever the central office wants to teach my child music is who will teach them music. I don't even get a say so in whether or not I want Apio versus Kwame to do it. All right, and we literally have our children in a school to be socialized at the expense of their education. I want to say that again. Many parents come to me and it's like, well, he's going to miss out socialization. I said, excuse me. So that means he is not being prepared academically, and you know it. And you're going to sacrifice that so that he can be socialized with his with the other students. Mm-hmm. So as if he can take that socialization with him and turn that into a business. As if he can take that socialization and that is the socialization that will get him in any college that he wants to get into. Okay, that is part of what's important for us is to prioritize the kind of education that we want our children to have, and let the socialization come from that. So those who are homeschooling, I say this because my children attended my own school, and it is a homeschool support program, and we got our children in African dance. We got our children in the martial arts. We chose the other extracurricular activities. After school, it was after school. They could be involved in youth radio programs, and they were involved in various projects. So they were not cheated of socialization after school. Now, of course, the purpose of school of math class is what? Math class, okay? And therefore, when my daughter that chose to go to college, one chose to go directly into business, and her last year, we had her intern with two black businesses, black business women particularly, because she's a black woman, and a young black woman, and she aspired to be in business. And she interned with them. That doesn't sound like negative socialization. For her senior year, the first semester, she's working with a black business person in massage therapy because she wanted to be a massage therapist. She also worked with a black business person, a business here in Atlanta metro area called Afrocentric Network. We placed her in both of those two businesses based on her aspiration. Her job with the last one during her internship was to study and to get the products of Afrocentric Network into Walmart so that you begin to have that distribution of this black-owned product. Yeah. Guess what? You today can go and get those products. Okay. What kind of preparation do you think that was for her, being in business for herself, that she was able to successfully do that as an intern? Okay. And look who she's socializing with. She's socializing with black business owners. Okay. Hello. So it's just important that we save basketball and band and those things, which are important. Don't get me wrong. The arts are critical. We save those for when we can organize those within our community, so our children can get those with the people we want to get them with the instructors we want them to learn it from, and we don't sacrifice quality education. And I don't mean education that just has you score well on somebody's test. I mean education so that not only do you do that, but you also know how to render distinguished service to our community, to your family, to our people, and you want to do that. I'll say this because thinking about it, many times our children graduate, we say, oh, thank you, Lord, we got them through, and they're gone. They have no interest or skill in how to continue the family business, how to build and push what we started on to the next level. It's like, no, let me get out of the family. Let me go way over here, and Mr. IBM's whatever they're doing is better than what my mother was doing. Okay, you know, AT&T getting a job there is the bomb. Like, whoa, we don't even have an interest. So how can that be a good education when it alienates our children from those things, whether they're businesses or whether they're traditions in the family that the family started?
Do you think that it's possible that some families maybe idealize poverty more than entrepreneurship?
Well, I think that's an adaptation, and I don't think folks idealize it in the sense of that's what their highest aspirations are. I think it's a rationalization. Okay, you know, for example, if I'm, you know, I don't want to deal with a problem that I have, then I can rationalize it. Well, it's actually a good thing. Okay, or if I'm not prepared to deal with it. All right. So I think it's a rationalization versus an idealization. Okay, that's number one. And this is an important distinction because a rationalization is a response and a reaction. And idealization speaks of it as if it's a kind of self-originating idea. Okay, and it's not a self-originating idea. No people would idealize poverty over wealth. Okay, we will very often rationalize that because we're ill prepared to solve the problem, and so we rationalize it and say it's a good thing when it's not a good thing. And also sometimes we don't know how to become wealthy without becoming our enemies, okay, or becoming something that our grandmothers would find distasteful. I remember when I was after I'd gotten out of college and I was on my own and I was working with a group of Black people doing some great positive work, and I was single and making decent money, and I found myself bouncing checks, and I'm like, what's this about, Wekesa? Give me a break. And so I set a goal, and I said, all right, if by December, it's about June, and by December, if I'm still doing this, I'm gonna go get some help, because this is something that this like out of my awareness, and it doesn't make sense, but I don't know why I keep doing it. And by December, I was still doing it, so I did go and get some help, the kind of help we're talking about, at least introducing on Saturday there in Cincinnati. And so a friend of mine began to help me probe, you know, where this behavior might come from. And so as I did, I realized that I had caught from my mother. My mother was an entrepreneur, so was my father. But I'd also caught in some of her talking about my uncles and others that I might not do good things with my money. And I might become a kind of person that my grandmother wouldn't be proud of. And so I literally, my mother was still living at the time, and I wrote her a letter, and I said, Mom, I want you to tell me that two things, that you want me to make money, lots of it, and you trust me to do good things with my money, things that you and my family will be proud of. And she called me on the phone, and she was amazed that I, caught this message. And I talked to her about where I caught it from. It wasn't the only message because, again, she was an entrepreneur and she worked for money and she sold things and built things and all of that. At the same time, this message had gotten in. And she said, I definitely want to tell you straight, son, that I want you to make money. I trust you to do good things with the money that you make. Things that will serve our family, things that will serve our community, things that will make me and our family proud. And guess what? That bit of woundedness, as it began to heal, I changed that behavior. Okay. And so now I could have rationalized, not knowing what to do. I could have rationalized it. I could have blamed it on somebody else. But I began my own personal healing process. And it starts with looking for, like, if there's behavior that we do and we continue to do and we don't know why we do it, but it still keeps happening, a pattern happens, to begin to get to a place, a safe place, to ask the question, why? What's behind this? And when we do, we'll come up with the answers, the healing answers, okay? So that we can make the changes in our behavior and therefore then make the changes in our community.
I guess your message, particularly healing, is about self-awareness, personal accountability, endurance.
Well, those words actually are okay to begin with, okay, but self-awareness is certainly a beginning, and then beyond awareness, because awareness is the beginning. Okay, I need to be aware of something. Right. Often awareness doesn't do it. Many of people are aware that smoking cigarettes is a bad thing. Many people are aware that eating sugar is not a good thing. We are aware of many things, and becoming aware of it, while it's the first step, it very often doesn't result in change behavior. Okay, all right. So awareness is not enough. All right. Self-awareness is one part, and then self-healing is the other part. Okay, so that I actively engage in things that will change my behavior, my reality, my future. Personal accountability actually needs to be grounded in collective support and accountability. Okay, so that I create a group and a posse that I'm accountable to. Okay, because there really is no such thing as an individual. Okay, and in the European sense, there is I am because we are, and we are because I am. There is this dynamic piece, and so I'm personally accountable when I'm accountable within a group. It is a major failure for us to really focus on individuals outside of the context of a support and accountability group. And notice I put support first. Okay. A support group and accountability, okay, a group that helps me become more accountable. Because if I'm not doing what I said I would do, then it is not a character flaw, okay? It's a wound of oppression, and that I need to help. And this is so, because our community goes so fast to, oh, there's accountability, I mean, there's a character, you're a bad person, you're like, give me a break, okay? It's not a character issue, all right? It's a support issue, okay? It's a wound issue, all right? And our people have known that for years. Now, we don't know it much now because we're following white people. White people are teaching us how to heal us, and therefore we're being sick. They're teaching us how to diagnose what's going on with us, whether we do it formally or not. And they're teaching us how to label it, and they're teaching us how to heal it. And so no wonder we are sick, and we will be sick. When your enemy diagnoses and treats you, you're going to stay sick. So again, when you say personal accountability, let's say accountability to the group, let's say support to and from the group. When we put those together, we get success.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to kind of touch on is I realized during the school day, you don't allow the children to use the words slaves and masters.
That's right.
Instead, you encourage them to use the words captives and captors. Can you explain why you feel that's so important?
Indeed. Many people who are used to reading about our history read about this period of slavery in America. And it goes the slaves, they, okay, so Africans were slaves and white people were slave masters. All right, and if you ought to have a slave, you got to have a master, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is psychologically damaging for us to identify with an imposed condition, a negatively imposed condition. We did not cease being African when we were captured by Europeans, when we were put into captivity, and when we were held in bondage, when we were prisoners of war. Being in chains doesn't change my name. It doesn't change who I am. It just means I'm in chains, okay? And look at what happens when our children lose that identity with who we were and who we are. So, and if you say the slave, it's distancing. Who wants to be associated with slaves and slavery? And very often we'll run from it. But no, 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 we were Africans. Yes, our condition was bondage. I'm not discounting how bad it was. I'm not discounting what it was. It wasn't who we were, and it's not who we are. And the psychological benefit of us refusing to identify with an imposed negative condition, a condition imposed by other people, which means that if I identify with that, they are defining me. We often talk about Kujichagulia. We talk about self-determination. One of the key parts of self-determination is naming ourselves. When we say the slaves, we're naming our ancestors after what white people named them. We are denying them. We're doing the same thing that those captors did when they said, we're not going to call you Kunta Kinte. We're going to call you Toby. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to call you, identify with you as an African from the Dogon people, from the Fulani people, from the Hausa, from the Zulu. No, no, you are a slave. Okay. It's a precursor for then you to becoming an American, disconnected from the culture and the mission and the power of Africa. Okay, we disconnect from that identity, that long identity that has us know that we people the earth, that we indeed were the first human beings on the planet. Okay, so saying slaves cuts you off from that, cuts us off from that. No, our condition was captivity. And the reason we don't say enslaved Africans, as some people do, is because it's still too close. Because we find when people do that, they'll end up slipping saying the slave master. Well, I'm sorry, it is psychologically damaging. Why is it damaging? I cannot whoop your butt and think of you as a master at the same time. And make no mistake about it. In every area, commerce, health, and whatever, we're going to have to whoop white folks' butt. Okay? Now, I'm just being very real with this, okay? We can't, and economically, we can't have people take all the money out of our community. Yes, we are in competition with people who want to take the wealth out of our community, and we're going to have to win that, okay? Mm-hmm. Folks, white people profit at others, okay? So when I say white, you can put Koreans in, you can put anybody who would be preying on our community. The medical industry preys on our community. We're going to have to create a healing system, healing systems and practices. So we dominate the healing in our community. We define it and dominate it. And you cannot win and consider someone a master. So the students and adults, everybody in our school and associate with us, learn to, and we ask them, and for students we require them, to refer to the white people. If they want to be polite, they can refer to them as captors, okay? If they want to be accurate, they can refer to them as barbarians, as the dogs that they were. Because, see, I'm not trying to have our children take care of, be polite to white people in that scenario. In that scenario where white people brutalized us, they were brutes, trying to make us brutes. To have a child today, I have to call them something polite, is to have that child carry those white people. Even today, then we're carrying them. And so it's important for us, students can call them barbarians, they can call them dogs in that connection, that white people were brutes to us. So they can say the brute, okay? Or they can say the captor, all right? And when it comes to us, they say the African or the African captive, sometimes just the captive, if the context says it, makes it clear. Sometimes just the African, never the slave.
All right. I guess to close out, what is your vision of an IA graduate?
Oh, wow. Thank you. The IA graduate first graduates with a skill set, academic skill set, that allows them to any path they want to go, that allows them to go to any of the colleges they want to go to in the country, okay? And they take that with them, what they learn. So they're going to grab the knowledge at that next level to serve us. They graduate with a level of protection so that they know how to matriculate at various institutions and still take what they're learning so that they can render distinguished service to their family and to our community and to our people and to the world in that order. I hope you understand that. That's one. Another is that they graduate having had the experience and knowing how to help be warriors, healers, and builders in our community, even at that stage, because it just grows. Okay, it's like they may not be the warrior, healer, builder they'll be when they're 35, but at every stage that they know how to defend our community, that they know how to help heal the wounds in our community, starting with themselves, and they know how to build with us. So they graduate looking for opportunities to cooperate with other Black people to fight, to heal, and to build.
All right, and that's what your seminar is all about. And usually you said it's a 3-day seminar, right?
Yes, that's why we call it a taste of WHB. Mainly because we're about skill building. Very often we come and we get awareness. Someone lectures or someone teaches us and we're like, oh, that makes sense. And we got the cognitive piece. But often I can show you how to throw a ball or hit a ball or take a photograph. You can see me doing it and I can tell you the principles. But our goal is skill building. So then to skill build, then I have to put the camera in your hand. Okay. And then I step behind you and I'm the coach. I'm noticing what you got and what you remembered, what you applied and how to apply it differently so that people leave with skills. When I said the Blacknificent 7 is the set, and that is 3 skills and 4 steps. And so you learn those and then you get to practice those. What do you practice those on? You practice those on issues that are relevant to you. And so we're going to do some of that. Of course, we can't do it to the same level we would do it if we were doing a weekend retreat, but that's coming. Okay, we're making Cincinnati our second home. Right?
Why Cincinnati?
Well, IA is in Atlanta, IA is in Chicago, IA is in Washington D.C. And we're building in the Oakland area and we're building in Cincinnati. It's the heart of the country. Okay, it's right there in the heart. And there is a heartbeat there in Cincinnati. We touch and we'll have people on the weekend coming from Kentucky. We'll have people coming on our Super Saturday from Columbus, from Dayton. And maybe even from Cleveland. And so we did not have a presence in the heart of the country. And we've been over a decade with our warriors, healers, and builders work in Washington, D.C., similarly in Chicago, and certainly here in Atlanta. And we've identified both the West Coast and the Central to begin to develop a presence, because our vision is to have our people learn how to heal from the wounds of oppression so that we can build schools that serve us, so that we can have our intimate relationships and family relationships become strong, even through breakups and mixed families and that kind of thing, so that they can be strong families. We want our businesses to not just be ideas that come and then go poof. And in order to do that, we must heal from the wounds of oppression. We must also become skilled at how to fight not only old-fashioned oppression, but modern oppression, the slick kind of oppression, the oppression that would say, we're not going to ignore Araminta, we're not going to suppress her, we're going to put her on the $20 bill. We're not used to that kind of, we're going to laud you and then redefine you, okay? That's another kind of oppression, dangerous, okay? And for us to be successful, we're going to have to know how to challenge that modern oppression as well as the old-fashioned. And then while we fight and while we heal, we still got to build. And build means building trust. And we've seen in the areas that we've been in, and we believe in Cincinnati and on the West Coast, that Aya will have a positive impact serving the community. The whole goal is to lift, to make whatever the Black community is doing, the African community is doing, stronger, because we heal those wounds, because we challenge oppression, and because we build together.
All right, well, we look forward to linking up with you this coming up weekend. It's on the 18th.
Well, now, the 17th is I want to make sure that people, it's a free event. It's called Araminta, the Warrior Healer Builder Story. And so you get to see how Araminta was a warrior in the way that we're talking about, was a healer and a builder. We often don't know that story. That's going to be the 17th. That's the evening, 6:30 to 9. And then we start Saturday, the 18th.
All right. Well,
thank you so much, sister. Thank you for having me on Gigi Live.
All right.
All right, take care.
All right, peace.